It's from the Cinderella movie. So A Dream is a Wish. From Cinderella, like the old Disney movie. What is the Snow White?
It's a dream is a wish your heart makes.
Yeah. We are happy when people recognize what we are saying.
Back up.
One, two, three.
Can we start right from the repeat? So we do the repeat, but right from the repeat sign, because second part. One, two.
classical dream.
We'll do the repeats at the beginning, right from the one, two, three. Jesse. What tempo will be? Is it in 3/4 for you? Which one? Yeah, let's do that. One, two.
Sophia, you did it. All right, get them ready and prepped. Good evening. I just want to thank Natalia and Devifa from the Mount Vernon Virtuosi who just performed. I really appreciate it. That was beautiful. I also thank my staff who turned around the stage. We had a bet. I bet they couldn't do it under 5 minutes, and they did it in 2. So it was very impressive. Yes, don't clap. It's fine. Tonight, Brendan and Judith are going to be in conversation for about 45 minutes, and we're going to have time for 15 minutes of your questions. There's a microphone here, and there will be a microphone on the end of that aisle. I ask that you bring the questions to the mic because we have a nice virtual audience as well joining us this evening, and that way they can hear the question. There'll be a book signing that follows the program. Our friends, the Ivy Bookshop, are here on site. Please buy a book, support an independent bookstore, have your book signed after the program. The other thing I wanted to mention, if you did park at the Franklin Street Garage, I have a free voucher for you, so it's free parking. If you didn't park at the Franklin Street Garage, please know that for all our author programs from here on out, we offer free parking after 4 o'clock at Franklin Street, so there's no more excuses that you love our programming, but you just can't make it because there's no parking. We've ended that. Also, this has never happened in my 25 years of author programming. I received an email yesterday from an Andrea Armstead, pardon me. Yes. And the Good Trouble Readers Book Club is here in the house. And I believe, I'm not paraphrasing, we would like a shout out. So here's your shout out. I am going to suggest to my book group that we buy matching hats. They're wonderful. So thank you for coming out. It's much appreciated. And with that, tonight I'm happy to welcome Brendan Slocumb to the Pratt for discussion of his novel, The Violin Conspiracy. Brendan has taught music in public and private schools for over 20 years. A violinist, he has performed with orchestras in Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Virginia. In The Violin Conspiracy, he introduces us to Ray McMillian, a young Black man from rural North Carolina who is focused on becoming a world-renowned professional violinist. Ray's journey leads him to the vaunted Tchaikovsky competition, where, on the day prior to his performance, his family violin is stolen and placed under ransom. The musician must not only rescue his violin, but also prepare himself for the most significant performance of his young career. Victoria Christopher Murray for the Washington Post called The Violin Conspiracy so wonderfully written, especially its descriptions of music, that at times I questioned whether I was reading or listening to a concert. And in Joshua Barone's review of the book for the New York Times, he wrote, Slocumb isn't too different from his protagonist, a natural. He easily conjures the thrill of mastering a tough musical passage and the tinnitus-like torture of everyday racism. This evening, Brendan Slocumb will be joined in conversation by Judith Krummeck, an author and evening drive time host for Maryland's classical radio station, WBJC 91.5 FM. She also hosts WBJC's Book Notes, a monthly author interview and book review segment. It is my great pleasure to welcome Brendan Slocumb and Judith Krummeck to the stage.
I could actually be on this side. Musical chairs just to get things off to a good start. So I feel as if I know Brendan intimately already, because as you were hearing, we did an interview for Book Notes, and that was a marvelous way to get to know him a little bit. And I can hardly wait to continue this conversation because we've been back in the green room and already, chatting. And so it's just kind of, now we pull you into the whole circle. So how many of you have read Brendan's book so far? just so exciting, and a gorgeous piece of work. I feel as if I'm coming at it from 2 points of view, because not only have I read it on the page, but also listened to it. So I was kind of getting it in stereo. Fabulous book. Hard to believe, I don't know if you agree with me, that it's a debut. I mean, it's just so accomplished, really stunning. And what informs this book so strongly is, of course, the music. It's the driving force. It's the whole ethos of it. And the way I want to start our conversation with you is, what drew you as a musician? What made it a compulsion for you to do that as a career?
First, thank you guys so much for coming. It's nice to see everybody. Before I answer Judith's question, I'm going to take a photo of you guys because I am so appreciative of you all coming and supporting everything. So give me a big sarsaparilla. I'll take it. All right. Yeah, it's awesome. Great. Now, there was a question in there somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So what was it about music that compelled you to make it your life work?
When I was 9 years old in the 5th grade, the opportunity in public school, we had a public school music program, the opportunity to play violin came about. A couple of my friends said that they were going to do it. I had never seen or heard anything about a violin, whatever. And the thing that got me was, you get out of class 2 days a week. Yes, I am there. I was not a great student in 5th grade. So like, yeah, let's do it. And I played, I held the violin. I was the first one to be able to hold the bow properly. My position was good. And my teacher acknowledged that. I'm like, whoa, she said I did something well. I never got that from my classroom teachers because I was not a very good student. And then when I was in 7th grade, we had all of the strings together. Before, it was just a violin and viola class, but we had cello, bass, viola, and just hearing all the sounds together, it was magic. And I will never forget. It's 7th grade. I will never forget 1984. Woo! Back in the 20th century. Yeah. It just was. It was phenomenal. And I get chills just thinking about how it made me feel back then. And it was one of the greatest things that has ever happened to me, just being able to experience music like that. And it just got better and better and better. And I loved it.
There is something very special about the American strings sound. It is so powerful. You can almost hardly imagine that one instrument or even a small combination of instruments can project that to that extent. So talk to us about the technique. I mean, how do you take it from the at the beginning to making it this mellow projecting sound?
You did that very well. You must have heard some beginning strings. That was super accurate. It's, the funny thing is, as a teacher, when I'm taking my students from that beginning sound to, a more mature sound, it's crazy. I notice every bit of improvement. They don't notice it. It's just like one day, eureka, they sound good. I hear every painful step in the development, and it is painful. I was one of them. I don't know how my mom did it. I really don't. It was bad. But just, I think the love of the instrument, the love of the music, the love of being able to know that you sound good. I've had students say to me, and this was the funniest thing, this music is a lot more fun to play when you've practiced it. Yes, of course. Just the fact that they see the improvement. It's one of those things where you're playing the violin and you're bad when you start off. Just being able to get from here to here is a major accomplishment. So it gives you that drive. It makes you want to do well. What do I need to do to make this sound right? What do I need to do to make this beautiful, beautiful sound that will make someone want to cry as opposed to make someone want to cry? It's just, I think it's half the player, half the instrument.
I think it's Perlman, wasn't it, who said, the difficulty for a violinist, and I suppose this applies to all stringed instruments, is that you've got to make a beautiful and pure sound before you can do anything else. I mean, if you pick up, let's say, a clarinet, you can make that sound fairly sweet right from the start. You put down a key on a keyboard, that's going to be the sound.
Right.
But you've got such a way to go before you can even get the sound. And you talk about teaching that. How do you communicate that to a student?
I often tell my students that, sometimes the discouragement is real. It is very, very real, because their friends who play a wind or brass instrument, well, they're playing this already and I'm still doing this. I let my kids know how difficult it is. It's one of the most difficult instruments to master. Not only do you need to visually be in tune with everything, your fingers have to move, your hand has to be in the right place. You've got to coordinate your left hand. You've got to think about exactly how much pressure you're going to use. There's like 100 different things going on at once. And I tell them, you are smarter because you're doing this. Your brain is working overtime. You're multitasking. And that takes away a little bit of the of them being disheartened because it's not sounding great. And then they realize, whoa, this is hard. There's a lot going on here. And I always tell them one thing at a time. We're focusing on intonation now. We're focusing on the rhythm. We're focusing on the tone. We don't have to do all these at once. Once we have one thing down, we'll add something to it. I learned that from my teacher. She taught me how to teach, and I'm passing that along to my students, and it really does work. And when it does happen, they see it and they're like, okay, now I get it. I know what it takes. I know what's involved. And if I want to get better, I'm going to put the work in. I've already chosen the hardest instrument to play. I may as well put the work in, right? Why not? Any violinist out here? Just curious. You used to play. You loved it, didn't you?
At some point, I did.
You know what? If I was your teacher, you'd still be playing.
What is so remarkable and compelling about this book, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is the way that you write about internalizing the music. So we've been talking quite a lot about the technicality and learning it, but the indescribable beauty and almost the mysticism and spirituality of music, the way that you are able to write about that. It made me wonder, do you really think that when you play? Because it's so hard to play. Are you actually in that incredibly beautiful zone?
That's a great question. When I was writing the scenes, the musical scenes, my initial draft, it was extremely technical. Staccato, martelé, spiccato, sautier bowing here, this and this and this. And that made sense to me because those are the technical terms that I use. And I would let my non-musical friends read those passages. And this is like French to me. What is this? I don't know what this is. Okay. I needed to go back. I was asked, my agent really helped and he pushed me on this. He was like, how do you feel when you play? Well, I feel X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. It's like this. It's like this. That's what you need to write. Ah, perfect. Yeah, I can do that because that's truly what, I'm glad you used the word spirituality. It's transcending. It is the feeling that I get when I'm playing. It's, you put the work in and you understand what the composer intended. I get to interpret someone else's, feelings. And it's such an amazing gift to be able to do that. And I really wanted to share that experience with non-musicians. So I believe one of the passages was like, it sounded like a cherub zipping from cloud to cloud. But when he slowed it down, they didn't zip from cloud to cloud. They got to hop from cloud to cloud. And it made all the difference in the world. And it really is like that. I'm playing a Vivaldi piece. I love the Four Seasons. I'm playing Summer. And, the thunderstorm is there. The lightning crashing, it's there. And that's how I feel. And I'm actually getting a little bit excited talking about this right now. Sorry, there are chills and things going on. So it really is that's how I truly feel. And I wanted to share that with everyone. It would be a crime to keep that from anyone experiencing that. So I really wanted to I hope it came through.
It really does. So you've talked about your mother, you've talked about your teacher.
Wait, I haven't talked about my mom, not for real. Mom in the book is not my mom.
Yeah.
I promise you.
And So that's what I was getting around to, because you said, you don't know how your mum lived through the of the early days. And certainly Ray's mom is, let's say, not 100% supportive. But you do have, I mean, Ray does have a fantastic mentor, and it seems that your teacher seems to have been a fantastic mentor. And so that leads me into the area of, they say to any writer, write what you know. Well, certainly you are, but how much of this is autobiographical? And let's just go right to the area of how difficult is it to choose a career where there are not that many Black classical musicians who are at the top of their game?
These are some of the best questions. Amazing. I'm glad y'all are sitting down. So, choosing that, let's start with mom. Yeah, my mom was as supportive as she could be. She didn't get it. There were no other Black kids, Black boys playing violin anywhere. It's like, I was into sports. I was on the track team. I was on the baseball team for a little while. I was in the marching band, but violin, why are you doing that? No one really got it, but they just knew that I liked it. So I got the support there. Okay, I don't get it, but as long as you like it, knock yourself out. Going into the career, when I was in college, I made it to college because of my violin. I had some amazing mentors. I had people in my life that pushed me and helped me when I was at my absolute lowest. And my violin teacher, Dr. Rochelle Vetter Huang, I will say her name every chance I get. The character of Dr. Janice Stevens is modeled after her. And she's the first person I let read the manuscript when I was done. And, she emailed me the next day and said, Brendan, I had only planned on reading for half an hour, but 3 hours later, I couldn't put it down. And she said, I can't believe you remember this particular instance. I can't believe you remember what I played this day. It's like, why would I not remember? You taught me everything I know. Of course I'm going to remember. There's a question in there, and I'm getting around to it. I promise you. I remember what it was. The mentor, the teacher.
What was it like for you? I mean, we know what it was like for Ray. What was it like for you making your way in a world where... Yeah.
And 92% of Ray is Brendan.
Okay.
92%. A lot of what happened to Ray in the book actually came from instances in my life. And choosing this career path, there have been so many times where people have said to me, you can't do this. You should do something that you're going to be good at. You really should try to do something else. Let's give you something that, that you can do. And that was very discouraging until you have that one person in your life that says, oh, that's nonsense. You can do it. And my teacher did. I wanted to quit. There were several times I wanted to quit, just like Ray, he wanted to quit. And, the obstacles that we faced, just the discrimination, when you have someone give you a backhanded compliment, and I give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but, I would go and play a performance someplace and someone would actually come up to me and say, you're so much better than I thought you would be. Yeah. And it's real. And what do you say to that? You say, oh, thanks. No. And, I've done performances where I've sat next to people who have gone to conservatories and, we're playing and, looks at me and says, where'd you go to school? I went to UNC Greensboro. You're an education major? Yeah. What? You play really well for an education major. And I'm like, dude, my teacher just made sure that we could all play. It doesn't matter, whatever. But things like that happen a lot. And with Ray and the instances of discrimination and everything, I tell you, the wedding scene was real. I know. It was a modification. It happened to me in college. And the father of the bride, the second we played our last note, shooed us out of the church as quickly as he could. And he looked us dead in the eye with this first time I'd ever seen hatred in someone's eyes. And he said, you ruined my daughter's wedding. I'm not paying you. I'm getting my attorney involved. I didn't know it was going to be like this. I'm like, okay, it's time to go. The Baton Rouge scene was real. The only thing that did not occur with me is that Ray went to jail. I did not go to jail. I am on my hands and knees with my hands up, on my knees with my hands up, you know, a gun drawn on me, cop on the bullhorn saying, you know, give me your ID. I take your ID out of your wallet. And I'm like, he's going to shoot me. This is pre-GPS, we're talking about smartphones in the back. You know, you had to use a road map, and I didn't know where. I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana with a friend driving cross country in a brand new black Honda Accord. So I turned left. I was in the right lane. The hotel was over here. Oh, it's over there. Cops comes, you know, I'm the only one that has to get out of the car. My companion is white. I'm the only one that has to get out. I'm on my hands and knees. The gun is drawn on me, and I thought I was going to die. I will never go back to Baton Rouge again, ever. If there's a sack of money with my name on it, I wouldn't go back. I will never go back. And, you know, things like that, I like to think that they really did make me stronger, because it could have broken me. Things like that could have broken me. And, you know, I've not been given anything more than what I can bear. So I made the best of it. And I wrote about it in a book. And I hope that cop got fired, and I hope he reads the book, because now he knows why.
So we've talked a lot about the violin part. Now, how about the conspiracy part? So you draw on, obviously, a wealth of experience in terms of being a violinist. I'm fascinated to know about the rabbit warren you went down in terms of FBI investigation and you know, this kind of crime scene where valuable works of art are passed from hand to hand as a kind of underhand currency. I mean, where did you go for that?
Internet. No, I actually did. I contacted insurance companies. I contacted private investigators. I contacted FBI. I contacted the arts theft department of the NYPD. I wanted it to be as accurate as possible. You know, I'm thinking initially, oh, you know, I've watched CSI, I've watched, you know, whatever. I can write this out in half an hour. So far from what is accurate. I really wanted to make it accurate. So I interviewed probably 10 people in the field, in the FBI and private investigators, insurance companies. How do you do this? How do you pay off? How do you deal with ransoms? And they gave me all the information, and they were really, really kind to share their knowledge. And, you know, I made sure to acknowledge them in the back of the book, because it was really, really helpful in making it as authentic as possible. I wanted it to be, you know, as a musician, my biggest fear was putting something in the book that another violinist would go, this guy has no idea what he's talking about, no clue. I knew all of that was going to be, you know, legitimate, because, hey, I've been doing this for a while. But that part, I didn't want anyone to write and say, this is inaccurate, this isn't right, this isn't right. I wanted to give no ammunition for anyone to do that. So I really made sure that the research was all there. And in doing that, I think someone said to me when I was in North Carolina, no, I was in Mississippi at a book fair. And so, hey, and someone said to me, Brendan, I think you've come up with a new genre. I think the genre you've created is musical thrillers. Yeah, I think it's the case. So I'm going to stick with that. And you mentioned write what you know. I know music. That was the best piece of advice that was given to me by my friend Eli Craner, who's got a couple of great books out. You should check him out. Don't Know Tough, Eli Craner. Dude, I got to tell him, I just gave him, I blew him up on the thing, and he's going to be like, dude, thank you. He lives in Arkansas, so it's like, got a beard like down to here. What is he doing? So I was going somewhere with that. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to jump in and say,
Thank you.
So anyone, even someone who doesn't have a musical career, right, they know that in order to get to your level, there's a huge amount of work that has to go into that. There's a huge amount of schooling. There's a huge amount of practice. It's just, you know, it's just time. There's so many hours in a day. So when did the writing start to creep in?
I had always written in elementary school. You know, we would have to write creative sentences, and I would do those. And I had a sub one day, and she actually said, thank you for these sentences. I didn't know what she meant until like 15 years later. Oh, she must have liked those. Yeah, that was in like 6th grade, I think. No, it was in seventh grade. That was Elementary school, I was not that great a student. And in high school, I was fortunate enough to have the same English teacher for both 11th and 12th grade English. And she knew me. She always encouraged us to write, and I would never get my essays back. I was wondering why I never got mine back. She would always stick them up on the bulletin board. Like, all right, I guess she liked that topic today. And I'd always written, I'm in a band and I'm the songwriter for the band. You know, I'm the songwriter by default because no one else wanted to do it. Okay, I can make this rhyme, sun and fun. Sure, I can do that. So all my early songs are just terrible. Oh my gosh, I think about it. I'm like, what am I thinking? But I always enjoyed it. I took short story. I read a bunch of short stories in college, and it's just fascinated me just reading these things. I'm like, I'd like to write something like that one day. And then the summer of 2020 hit. COVID-19. You guys remember 2020, right? I, as a working musician, no performances, no concerts, no lessons, no practicing, no recitals, no weddings. Everything stopped. So I'm sitting on the couch, getting fatter and fatter and fatter, eating. And I was flipping through the internet one day, selling books in the age of COVID. Oh, why not? I'd written a science fiction story 20 years prior. Now, this is 20 years ago, so if you ever see it, don't look at it, please. I literally typed, stuck it in an envelope, and sent it off. Not a single edit, nothing. This is the greatest story in the world. I'll dust it off. So I sent it to my current agent, and he sent me a letter back and said, this story is absolutely horrible, but you've got a good voice and you should try writing what you know. And it's not science fiction. Try writing music. And I wrote the first chapter of The Violin Conspiracy with Ray sitting in his classroom. And he was like, this is good. This is what you need to do. Okay, write 2,500 to 3,000 words a day. No sweat. I'm used to practicing 3.5 hours every day, so I can sit down and do that. Plus, it was COVID. There's nothing going on. And so I did. And in 2 months, I had The Violin Conspiracy written. It was COVID.
So tell me about that relationship that you developed with your agent. I mean, so you come to this with this huge training as a musician. You come from the other side with a raw talent as a writer. So how did you put those two elements together?
I had a lot of guidance, and as a musician, I am accustomed to getting feedback, not always good. I take it, and I always take what I can use and I discard the rest. If I let someone read something I've written, they will either love it or they'll hate it. They'll tell me why they love it, why they hate it, just like playing a piece. My teacher would say, this is what you did well. This is what you need to improve upon. And you just take it all and you use it. I wasn't getting my feelings hurt. I wasn't, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about because this is really good. No, you know more than I do, and I want to learn from you. So as a teacher, we're always learning. We're constantly learning from students, and it's a give and take. So he really was instrumental. Did you get that? in guiding me, take this direction, go in this direction. And he would challenge me. Things that I would write, he would say, make me believe that. And I would say, you don't believe it? No, not at all. Okay, take it out. No, convince me. You did it for a reason. Convince me. And that's the kind of relationship we have. He is 100% straightforward, honest with me. That's what I ask for. That's what he gives me. And he truly did change my life. And I thank him. I'm grateful to him because he trusted me. He took a chance on me. And he was like, I see something. I don't know what it is. And you mentioned raw. It was totally raw. He saw something and he took a chance. And I am the type of person, I will do the work. I'm a pleaser. I wanted to please my teacher. I had one bad lesson in 4 years. One. I came in unprepared once. And I said, never again. The disappointment on her face. I never wanted to see that again. And I'm just that type of person. If I make a commitment to you to do something, I'm going to do it 100%. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. So he guided me, and I'm the talent, he's the brains.
So what give us an example of some of the instances where you sent him something and he said, make me believe this?
Okay. There was one chapter where Ray is doing a master class with a bunch of kids, and he didn't believe it. He was like, no, it's not like that. That's not how it is. Dude, yes, it is. That's exactly how it is. I'm telling you, because I've been there, I've done this. Well, what's so, what am I not getting? And I would explain to him, you have to understand, this is the background of the people that are here. This is the background of the institution. This is the background of this particular player. And I had to walk him through, and his perspective was so different than mine. I really had to convince him, he's a white guy, younger than me. I've lived my experiences as a Black man, and I don't expect him to get my experiences as a Black man. So I had to explain them I had to make him understand. And, at the end, he was just kind of like, whoa, like, yeah, that's how it is. And, I have to give him and my editors credit, because things that they thought would have been a bit much, I really pushed. Even from the very beginning, he told me, and I know he hates it when I say this, but it's true. We're keeping it real, right? We're friends, right? Okay. He said, I cannot sell a book with a protagonist named Raekwon. And he was keeping it real, and I appreciated it. And I was like, why? He was just like, you're going to lose half your readers if the name is Raekwon. And I said, you know what? That's exactly why you need to sell a book with a protagonist named Raekwon. I'm not changing the name. I will not. I know 10 Raekwons. I do. I taught like 15 Raekwons. I know them. And, not everyone's name is Bob and John and Jeff and William and Henry. Not everyone is. There are Raekwons in the world. And hey, so I convinced him, and he said, that's one of the best decisions that you could have made. And thank you for pushing me on that. I'm like, dude.
What's so interesting also about the book structurally is how many pathways you've got. So you've got the pathway of, is he going to make it, right? You've got the pathway of the violin getting lost. You've got the pathway of trying to find out what kind of violin is this? What is this instrument? So how did you negotiate keeping those threads going?
Pacing was extremely important to me. And I like to, when I'm reading, I like to be entertained on every single page. I want just whatever is going on, I want it to keep going. So there were lots of times where I actually deleted entire chapters because it just totally lost the pacing, or I would switch from, okay, I'll move this here and I'll move this here and I'll move this here. Okay, that makes a little more sense there. And, I would also rely on feedback. Is this boring? I'd let someone read like the first 6 chapters. Okay, is this boring at all? Yeah, it gets a little slow right here. Okay, I need to change that up. And I rely heavily on feedback. I'm not writing for myself at this point. I'm writing for people who want to enjoy a story. Huh? Is that you guys? That's what I'm talking. So I try to keep it interesting for people, and the pacing was so important. And I figured with all those different threads coming together, and just being able to branch out that way, it was really interesting to me. So I wanted to make it as interesting to the audience as I could. So I wanted to draw on all of those threads and just make them work together. And thank God it worked.
And the other thread, of course, is the competition. So, you've described the Tchaikovsky competition as being like the Olympics of the music world, and that's true. What is your experience of it? You wrote so authentically about Moscow and that whole life, and so let us know where you're coming from with that.
I did the Tchaikovsky competition came about. I knew that, when I was in college, we would always get these flyers for, that this is the literature this year for the Tchaikovsky competition, and we would kind of discuss amongst ourselves, is anyone going to be ready to audition for this year? And none of us, I started late as a violinist. Age 9 is like ancient. That's like a grandpa starting to be a classical musician. So I would look at the literature. Nope, not that concerto. Nope, just started that concerto. Oh, I can play that one. That one, no, I can't play. I can only play one of the 18 pieces that we have to play. So no, not this year. But we would always get, it'd be interesting to see who was competing and, what the literature was. So, I knew what it was and it was there, and I'd done other competitions, but this one just felt like it was a bigger deal. So, okay, this was the top of the top, and okay, I could live vicariously through Ray. Had I started 5 years sooner, I probably would have been there and written about that, but I didn't do it. So I let my homeboy Ray do it.
And then of course there's the whole story of the Strad and its whole evolvement and so on. So tell us about your instrument.
Which one? Well, first off, the theft of the violin, it's sad. It really is a sad state of affairs because that was a real thing. My senior year in high school, I had gotten this violin. This was my very first, it was a professional level instrument. A teacher had sold it to me very cheap because he was buying a new instrument. And I was so proud of this violin. You know, I was doing gigs. I was going to go to college with this. It was going to take me to my professional career. We went on a family trip one weekend. And you know how when I don't know if you've ever had your home broken into, and it's a terrible, terrible feeling. But the moment you walk in, you know, you just know, you know, and you see the furniture is askew and things are missing. I didn't care about any of that. I ran straight to my bedroom where my hiding spot was. And I looked under my bed. It wasn't there. I was like, all right. I looked again and it wasn't there. So I walked out of the room and I walked back in. Okay, it'll be there. It's not there. To this day, it feels like there's a part of me that is missing. I've been incomplete since that day that it was stolen. And if anyone sees a 1953 Eugene Lehman violin, I won't ask any questions. Just I want it back. I love that fiddle. But just the whole theft thing and the provenance of that particular Stradivarius violin, I wanted a story with the violin itself. I think the violin was one of the main characters in the story, and I really wanted people to get a sense of how we as musicians feel about our instruments. It's not even an instrument. It really is an extension of our bodies. The violin calls to me. I never picked out the violin that I'm currently playing on. It called to me. The violin I'm playing on right now is a 1752 French instrument. And I've got to take it to Paris to get it, all the paperwork with the maker and everything. But the guy who did the initial markup was from London. And he said, "Do you know what you have here?" I'm like, "No, that's why I'm having you appraise it, dude." "No, I don't know." It's like, this is, you know, it's 18th century, definitely around 1750. And it's a French instrument. I knew it was French. Okay. It's like, here's the name and address of this guy in Paris. You can go, okay, I'll check that out. But I played that violin. I played 2 notes and I knew 2 notes. I was like, yep, this is the one. This is mine.
How do you know?
It really calls to you. It honestly does. It's the way that it feels in your hand. It's the way the tone just speaks to you as you pull the bow across the string. Just the sound. It's almost like it's saying, thank you. Thank you so much for picking me up and playing me. I truly feel this way, and I'm doing my best to keep my emotions in check because I'm getting all excited just thinking about, I mean, that it really is what it does. And it's different for each person. You know when it's the right instrument. You just know. It calls to you.
And the bow? Because I mean, I think we tend to think of, it as one unit, but the bow obviously plays just as important a role.
Absolutely. I remember I also have a 1997 Rinaldi violin. It's probably why I'm losing hearing in my left ear, because it's a soloist violin and it is loud. Oh my gosh, it's loud. And I played 1 million solos on it and it's really loud. I tried 14 different bows before I picked the one that I like. And with the French instrument that I have now, my friend Vernon Summers, God rest his soul, he was a first violinist in the National Symphony, and I bought his bow from him. He said, "Try one of these." And I picked up the one that I really liked. He said, "That's the one that I played on for 40 years. It's like, this is the one that I want to keep and I want to continue playing." And, he's been taken away by cancer, which sucks. Cancer, it sucks. And so that violin, that bow is really special to me because,
So you've talked about cornering the market on musical mysteries.
Mine, trademark.
And you've mentioned that, write what you know, and that you are busy on your second novel. What can you share about that?
Thank you for asking. I can share that my second novel is done and being edited right now.
Ooh.
I know, right? I know. Oh, okay. And in keeping with the musical thriller genre, check this out. Okay, I really think musical thrillers is a real thing. I really do. That's real. You got to support me on this. So the name of the second book is called Symphony of Secrets. I know the alliteration is awesome. I know. You don't have to be a musician, I promise. I'm going to put a disclaimer on the musical thriller genre thing. You don't need to be a musician to appreciate this. I'll give you the elevator pitch. Do you guys know what an elevator pitch is? Okay. I was somewhere the other day. They were like, "What? Where's it? Is there an elevator in this building? What are you talking about?" Okay. Initially, when I started talking, I can't believe that this started in February. The pub date for Violent Conspiracy was February. February. And it feels like it's been going on for a million billion years. And I used to stand in front of the mirror and read and practice how I was going to give the pitch for the Violent Conspiracy. Now I'm like, I can just tell you all about it. But for Symphony of Secrets, America's greatest composer. He is bigger than Beethoven, bigger than Mozart, bigger than he's huge. His 150th anniversary celebration is coming up, and his family, the descendants, run a foundation in his name, which is synonymous with Walt Disney. Everyone loves the Delaney Foundation. And they hire a musicologist to do some research into why this guy's music was so loved by everyone, especially the Black community. Okay, cool. During his research, he discovers this guy may not have written any of this music. And it may have been written by a Black woman that we now know would be living with autism. And the family will stop at nothing to keep that a secret because they will lose billions. Symphony of Secrets. I know, right? I know.
So who wants to hear Brendan read?
Thank you. Wait, is there anyone who has not read this book? Oh, no spoilers. Okay. Maybe I'll just pick up. I want to read the Boston chapter. I love that chapter. Anyone remember Boston?
Yep.
Remember Boston? That's one of my favorite chapters, to be perfectly honest. I love that chapter. Just because, and it's funny, I was talking to a book club who was in Boston, and they said, I really hope that nothing like that ever happened to you in Boston. I was like, no, it was all fiction. You're okay. But they were nice. And does anyone know what chapter Boston is? I'm sorry. I should have been better prepared for this. My bad. I'm still learning. Sorry, you guys. Where is Boston? I think it's like 114 or something. That's Grandma Nora. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hey, talk amongst yourselves. Let me see. I'll give you a topic. Pancakes. Are they really cakes? Blueberry or banana? Ew. Okay. All right. I'll take that. All right. So I'm not going to read the Boston chapter. I'm going to read something else. All right. In Goldsboro, North Carolina, he judged the solo festival at the Academy of Performing Arts, where local students from the surrounding area performed solos for ratings later in the afternoon. Besides judging, he would also give masterclass to a handful of students. But first, he and his fellow judges were assembled in the auditorium. He introduced himself first to Jessica Deitcher from the North Carolina School of the Arts. He'd seen her perform when he'd been in school. She was a self-proclaimed musical prodigy who always played the exact same program year after year. The other judge was Henry Mason, the conductor from Wake Forest University. He was equally taciturn. He was a short, heavy-set man with jet black hair that smelled like shoe polish. Ray wasn't uncomfortable sitting on a judging panel with these two. He was clearly just the token Black guy with no talent and no discernment and absolutely not worthy of listening to. What a pity that he just happened to own one of the most expensive violins in the world. After each student played, his fellow judges would mutter a few pointers to the students and scrawl additional comments on a score sheet. Ray always made sure to end with something positive and encouraging, but his fellow judges, who couldn't seem to wait for him to stop talking, seemed to relish in being brutally unkind. Ray wondered if they were in a secret competition to figure out who could reduce the most students to tears. The masterclass was taking place in a few hours, would consist of the players with the highest scores from the day. So Ray kept track of the scoring so he would have an idea of who he would be teaching later. I swear, Jessica said to Henry, I don't know what these teachers are doing to these kids. The standards just seem to get lower and lower every year. This is a waste of my time, Henry agreed. These kids are very poorly trained. He checked his watch. Only another hour until lunch, thank God. The next student, a black teenager, maybe 14 or 15 years old, came in with his mother. The boy held his violin and the mother carried a portable CD player. The boy sat up and started tuning as the mother fiddled with the player. "Are you kidding me? He doesn't even have an accompanist," Jessica said, loud enough for the boy to overhear. "Can we get this over with, please?" Henry said as he stared out the window. Ray found the boy's name on the roster. "Hey, Bryce, what are you going to play for us today?" Bryce mumbled, "I'm playing My Heart Will Go On from Titanic." "Excellent," Ray said. Jessica sighed. "That's one of my favorite songs," Ray said. "Your accompaniment is recorded?" "Yeah, is that okay?" Before either of his fellow judges could respond, Ray leaned forward. "That's just fine. We're looking forward to hearing you. Anytime you're ready." Bryce's mom hit play. Next to Ray, Jessica and Henry began writing immediately, not even listening. Ray leaned forward, engaged. Bryce needed a lot of technical work. His fingering was jumbled and the bowing was choppy, but much of the roughness could be smoothed out pretty quickly. The trick was to keep the kid engaged in playing, not let him get defeated. 2.5 minutes later, Ray applauded and stood to shake Bryce's and his mother's hand. "I thought you did a bang-up job," Ray said. "Keep doing what you're doing. You have a great sound and a killer vibrato. Are you working on any other music?" "Not really. I can play the concerto in A minor." "The Vivaldi?" "I think so, yeah. Fantastic. How would you like to play that in the masterclass this afternoon?" "I'd love to," Bryce grinned. "Great, you're on the list. You can play the Vivaldi. Nice work today. Keep it up." After they'd gone, Henry said, "If you teach him today, you're taking a spot from someone who deserves it. I'm going to talk to someone about this. This just isn't right." "What's not right is that you wrote that kid off before you even heard a note," Ray said, keeping his smile plastered on his face, pulling back his shoulders. "Why doesn't he deserve an opportunity to learn? This is absurd. There's no way he's ever going to..." Jessica stopped herself. There's no way he's never going to what?" "Can we have the next student?" Jessica said loudly. That was a real thing, by the way. That really happened. And I gave this kid a lesson and everyone else was just kind of like, so I really wanted to include that in there just because, all he needed was a chance.
And how did he do?
He did. Oh my God. He played My Heart Will Go On and it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. And I said to him, "You're better than I was when I was your age." "Dude, nice job. Keep it up. Don't ever stop playing."
Fantastic.
I said, "Why are you playing this song?" He said, "My mom really likes it." Dude.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
You've been so wonderfully responsive, and I can just tell that you've got so many ideas bubbling up. So let's have some questions from you. Yes. So we need to have you at the microphones, if that's okay, for our audience members who are at home so that they can hear you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I enjoyed the book.
Yeah.
And I'm with the book club, but during our book discussion, I didn't even think about this. My daughter played violin in school, and she went every summer to strings camp up through high school. And it was always a disappointment on first chair, second chair. And when she come back and being the only African-American in the strings part of the group. So as I'm thinking about how do you foster that interest, because I remember as a parent having, when she was in elementary school, I had a violin which was given to me by a friend. And that was the violin that my daughter played. But when they start in school, in elementary school, most of the parents are going to the music stores and renting these things. How do you foster an interest for communities of color when access to instruments come through having to rent?
Right.
And have you thought about that and what means are available for communities of color to get instruments and stuff?
I will answer.
Foster that interest?
Thank you for that question. I will answer it in two different parts. The first is arts councils, churches, nice people who just love music, anyone who is willing to help put an instrument in a child's hands. It really starts with the arts councils of whatever city that you're living in. If there's not an arts council, there needs to be a petition to start one. There's no reason why, if we can raise billions of dollars to send other places. Arts are so important, and they're being left out of schools and cut programs all the time. They are really, really important. Not everyone is on the lawyer track or the doctor track or the engineer track. Arts are extremely important. It's the creative outlet that we all need. Arts councils, art councils, art councils.
Yeah.
Anyone who has an instrument, whatever you can do to get one in a child's hands. And the other part to that is exposure to people who look like me. You know, I would walk into a place and, you know, I see a sea of white faces and a few black faces sprinkled in, and the the eyes of the black children, the eyes of the black children just light up. Oh my gosh, he looks like me. You know, and that is a real thing. It is huge. And exposure, we are out there. We're totally out there. And I am trying to be involved in any program that will get me in front of a group of kids who looks like me. Because I want them to be able to share in the experiences that I have. Music saved my life. It saved me. It kept me out of prison. It kept me out of trouble. It took me to college. It took me around the world. I'm sitting here right now speaking with Judith and looking at you wonderful people right now from a book that I wrote, all because of my violin. It will open doors and exposure. We got to get people who look like me in front of people who look like me.
The other question I had, that's very good, about fostering the arts.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, you're competing with genre hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been noticing a few female hip hop violinists and a few male coming up, and I'm sure you have to have the same bass training, classical training. Is that an opportunity to foster interest because you're competing with the genre and instruments? And
absolutely. Just getting the kids exposed to it. And it's like, you know, personally, I think that it should start in elementary schools. We should have a classical music Monday, a hip hop Tuesday, a bluegrass Wednesday, a, you know, jazz Thursday, a rock and roll Friday. Kids need to be exposed to this stuff early on so that it's not classical music is being viewed as an elitist thing. Oh, that's only for those people who live over there, or the people who can afford that. It's not, it's for everybody. It's for everyone. And it starts with exposure. You know, whoa, that's a violin. Oh, you can play this kind of stuff on violin. You never know that had you never heard, you know, walking through the hallway in school. Oh my gosh, what is today? Monday? It's classical Monday. Okay, so that must be a violin. That must be a flute. Is this what a cello sounds like? Just getting the interest out there. It's all about exposure. It truly, truly is. And I'm working on it. I'm working really hard on it. I am. It saved my life. Hey.
Hi. I want to, of course, first of all, thank Enoch Pratt for bringing you here this evening. I am so excited. You mentioned this young man who was a true story in your book. Are you still in touch with him, where his career is? Do you know how he's doing?
There are so many people that I made reference to in the book. Are you referring to that guy?
That you just mentioned.
I have not, but something tells me, I mean, God, that was like 25 years ago, but I think this kid is still playing. He played too well not to keep playing. Yeah. And I could see and feel the joy that he got from playing. And his mom was in tears as he was playing because it was so beautiful. I mean, it was My Heart Will Go On. Do you remember when the Titanic came out? That song was on the radio like every 5 minutes. I never listened to it. I'm not even kidding. I never listened to it. So when I heard him play it, I'm like, whoa, dude, that was so good. His vibrato was gorgeous. And I remember saying to him what someone said to me when I went in an audition. They said, you have a lovely vibrato. I'm like, I don't know where it came from, but thanks. And so it was an opportunity for me to give back just a little bit. And I'm hoping that maybe that kid will remember that and he'll, you know, spread some joy to someone else. I hope so.
Yeah, I understand. And I also want to let you know that when I heard about your story, the first time author, because COVID thrust you into it. And as awful as COVID was, it took many lives, but it gave you life. And, you know, that is just remarkable. And I'm in a book club as well, and we read it and we loved it.
Oh,
And thank you so
oh,
much.
that's so nice. Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say. I appreciate that. And yeah, I look, this is how grateful I am. I have thank you tattooed on my arm.
Yeah.
I got this in 2021 because I am so grateful for everything. I'm so grateful. I mean, I feel like I was chosen. I really do. I feel like I was chosen. I went through.
So we have time for one more question.
Okay, so again, thank you. This was totally a miscalendar event for me, so I didn't even know you were going to be here this evening. I was supposed to be at another event for tomorrow that I thought was happening today in here. But I am very excited that I was able to be a part. I have not heard about your book. I haven't read your book, but it seems like an incredible piece that I am going to read. So my question for you is to hear a little bit more about what is your inspiration? What draws you? I know you said your music, but are there other forms of inspiration? Do you talk a little bit about your writing process and what kind of moves you to write what you write? I know you have a base through music in what you're saying in your career, but what are those other inspirations? That's the first part. And then just kind of what's a fun fact about you?
Okay. Okay, inspiration to me. Wow, family and friends are okay. I'm just real quick. When I say I was chosen and I'm still here and I have thank you, very quickly in 2017 I was 12 hours away from dropping dead. I had this crazy heart thing, and the doctors said to me, "You are one of the unluckiest people on the face of the planet. The condition you have affects 1 in 9 million people." And had I not been in good, I was in training for a bodybuilding competition. I know you can't tell by this, but I was getting jacked. And had I not been in good shape, not a smoker, not a drinker, doctor was like, if you don't go to the hospital, if you don't go to the ER right now, you're not going to make it till the morning. My heart had expanded 3 times the size it was supposed to be. My blood pressure was 260 over 200. Yeah, and my organs were shutting down, and it was 27. I'll never forget, January 24th, 2017, and I almost died. And the recovery was almost worse than the ailment, and it took a year for me just to be able to walk from one block of my street to the next. And friends and family helped me, and they were with me, and they encouraged me. I wanted to give up. I wanted to quit. I couldn't play my violin anymore because I was too weak. I couldn't do my own laundry. I could do nothing. And my friends and my family helped me. And because they were there for me, I owe them. I am here right now because of you guys. Thank you so much. So everything I do is based in gratitude towards them. And that is my inspiration. You know, I would not be here. So I'm very happy to do any and everything I can to show them how much I love and appreciate everything they've done for me. And one fun fact about me, I collect comic books and action figures like you would not believe. And I get the question, Marvel or DC? Comic books is both Marvel and DC. I've got 10,000 comic books in my office. Literally 10,000, and I've got action figures and statues all in my, and then most of those are Marvel, and I just got 2 more to do. They're still in the box. I haven't opened them, but I guess that's fun. Is that fun? Okay.
So Brendan has been so open and so giving and so transparent, and you know, really one wouldn't expect anything different with the kind of book that he's written. And so thank you. It's been an absolute joy speaking to you, and we can hardly wait till your next book comes up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I want to take the opportunity to thank Judith and Brendan again. This was a wonderful conversation. These conversations happen in these spaces We haven't been able to get together for quite a while. We're back. We're doing programs, and this is why we do them. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
So with that said, we are going to have Brendan go outside. He is going to sign your books. You are also going to have the opportunity to purchase more books from the Ivy Bookshop, who's outside. Please take advantage of that. Again, thanks for coming out.